Dr. Carson, your first time to Sylvia is kind of a landmark thing. How'd it go?
It was wonderful. The food here is spectacular. The people here were wonderful. I loved it.
Yeah. What are the other landmarks in New York City that you've never been to that you still like to go to?
Well, I hadn't been to the 9/11 memorial until this morning. That was really eye-opening. I've never been to the top of the Statue of Liberty. I've been on Ellis Island in the museum, and I'd like to do that at some point.
I was want to ask you a question about cities. This is a great city, but it's got problems like most urban areas. What are one or two cities in America today that you think are working right, that are models for the way urban areas should work?
I'm not sure that there are any that are absolute models, but I do think there are some general principles that are very important. Fiscal responsibility. The cities that have, both governors and mayors that are fiscally responsible obviously are the ones who are doing the best right now. And I think that's a general principle. And as we look throughout the nation, it's just, I guess maybe, could it be a coincidence that the ones who have the governors who are fiscally responsible tend to be the ones that are in the black and doing better?
A little better, yeah.
You got asked a couple questions today about Black Lives Matter, and you've said both today and previously that, of course, Black Lives Matter. I want to ask you a couple specific questions about this, though, because you talk a lot about culture. Do you think there's a problem with systematic bias among police forces in America against African Americans?
Well, like I said, I think fear and unfamiliarity creates problems on both sides. And the way you solve that problem is to create relationships. So it's not surprising, obviously, if you take people who maybe come from two different cultures and you put them together in a naturally conflicting way, that you're going to have problems. That shouldn't be a surprise to anybody.
Right, but there are proposals out there now to try to change police practice, things like body cameras. Are you in favor of those kind of? Do you think those changes are necessary? And if so, what specific changes would you like to see in terms of police behavior?
Well, I think body cameras are very important. It's great technology. I love it. Pretty soon teachers may have to start wearing them too.
More presidential candidates.
Presidential candidates, everybody. But I think the thing that's more important, or most important, is introducing police into communities who are known in that community. In this community, there used to be beat cops.
Right.
And everybody knew their beat cop. And still, in some communities, there still are. I was talking to an officer in Baltimore. He says, everybody knows him in the neighborhood where he goes. He says he never has to worry about dinner or lunch. People say, hey, come on in here and I got some fried chicken, whatever. So that's what happens when you have relationships. And that's going to stop a lot of this.
Let me ask you one more thing on this topic, which is criminal justice reform more broadly. There's a lot of people are very concerned about the incarceration rates for African Americans in this country. Do you think there are things that should be done about mandatory minimum sentences, other things in terms of criminal justice reform, and specifically what would they be? Well,
specifically, there are certain nonviolent crimes that probably could be punished in a way different than sticking them into criminal university, where they learn to be criminals, where they learn to become violent criminals, where they develop relationships with the wrong people. So clearly that is something that needs to be looked at. The whole prison complex, the way it's growing and becoming an industry which needs to be fed, that's absolutely the wrong model. We have 5% of the world's population and 25% of their inmates. That's a problem. And we need to just acknowledge that it's a problem, and we need to make the adjustments that are necessary.
Ask you about Washington, where your party controls the House, Speaker Boehner, Senator McConnell. What's something you think the two of them as Republican leaders are doing well now?
Well, they're leading their respective bodies. They're at least able to bring some things to the floor. I would like to see them be a lot more aggressive.
In what ways? What are specific things you'd like them to do that they're not doing?
Specifically, for instance, with the recent Supreme Court rulings on gay marriage, I would like them to come up with very specific proposals that will protect the religious freedoms of people so that they're not losing their careers, losing their shops because of their religious beliefs. And I think that needs to be done yesterday.
Even if the president would veto it, you'd still like to see them move it forward.
If they should do it in such a way that the president would dare not veto it.
Let me ask you one question on foreign policy. There's this deal, obviously, being considered on Iran. Let's presume that deal becomes becomes the law of the land, so to speak. If you became president in January of 2017, would you try to get rid of that deal as soon as you got into office, or would you let it stand?
No, I would. I don't think that that's a reasonable deal at all.
Right.
I mean, I would be very anxious to come up with something better. And if they couldn't come up with something better, to reimpose severe sanctions and increase the sanctions and do whatever else is necessary, because a nuclear-armed Iran is going to be a nightmare.
Right. You would revoke the agreement as soon as you became president of the United States and think about trying to seek other options? I would
either revoke it or do something else that is appropriate after getting appropriate counsel.
Last two questions, because we know you got to go. You got more to do today. First is, if you were to come up with a slogan for Sylvia's, what would it be?
The best collard greens in the world.
That's a good slogan.
Trademark
that true.
Also true.
Last question. You were seen, I think, probably by more people than ever seen you in the debate in Cleveland. I'm wondering if Ben Carson's more famous than you were before, if more people are recognizing you after the debate.
No question that that's true. A lot of people have come and said, I didn't know who you were. But, the wonderful thing is, like I was in the airport yesterday on the way here sitting down, a lady comes up to me and she says, I'm a staunch Democrat, but I love you.
That's pretty good.
That's good.
That could be Ben Carson's slogan.
That
Staunch Democrats love me. Dr. Carson, thanks so much. Great to see you. Enjoy New York.
Thank you.